Hi everyone, Eric Olsen from Helps, YouTube Live here. If you can hear me, let me know in the chat feature. It's always nice to make sure you can hear me. My name's Eric, attorney for 46 years, the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. We represent seniors in order to stop collectors from harassing them, okay? And we do that under a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors have to leave you alone. And we got a guest today, Ken Krajewski. I've known Ken now for almost 15 years. And Ken is a mortgage broker who works on reverse mortgages. And at the beginning, we're going to talk about reverse mortgages. Okay. If you're even if you're not buying a home, it might be good to listen to what we talk about. There's just a lot of misinformation about reverse mortgages. And a lot of people access these videos and they learn about this, and it can be a life changer. Reverse mortgages aren't for everyone, but for a person that needs them, they can make the difference between, a really good life or really struggling. And I don't have any vested interest to see that anyone gets a reverse mortgage. I don't have any financial interest to see that gets one. But when I realize that someone needs one, I want them to know about it. Okay. And we've redone some of our videos. So some of our videos we've done with Ken in the past have gone missing. So we're going to talk about a little about reverse mortgages today. So welcome to our show, Ken. Say something.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
You bet. So Ken and I met back in 2012 when Helps was brand new in Chicago. He came up to our desk when we started telling people about Helps was doing, and I could tell right then that this guy cared about people, seniors that needed help. And we've referred a lot of cases to him over the years. He's always treated our people right. And so first of all, Ken, why don't you tell us really quickly, sum up what is a reverse mortgage, and then I'll go from there.
Thanks for having me on, Eric. To summarize it as quickly as I can, basically reverse mortgages is there's many variations of reverse mortgages, but the one that we're going to talk about, or I'd like to talk about, is the one that's insured by FHA, the Federal Housing Administration. Basically, for the most part, it's a home equity line of credit. If anybody's had a home equity line of credit in the past, it's very similar. It's a credit line you can get against your home. If you're not using the credit line or you have unused portion of your credit line, you're not being charged interest on that. And then the part that you are being charged interest on, you're not required to make a payment on it while you're living in the home. You certainly can make a payment on it. You can make a payment at any time for any amount that you want. But one of the biggest benefits of the reverse mortgage is not having that monthly payment be a burden to the homeowner. And what happens is, instead of you making a payment every month to the bank, that interest just gets added onto the balance, and it'll eventually get paid at some point down the road, likely when the homeowner leaves the home permanently. And that's when the lender will collect the interest on on the mortgage.
So the clients that come to Helps, Ken, that look like they might need a reverse mortgage, a typical client might be just say a widow, husband's passed away. Maybe they got a home that's worth $300,000. Maybe she owes $100,000 on the home, and the payment is $1,200 a month. But when the husband passed away, her Social Security went away, and now she gets his Social Security, maybe $2,000, maybe $1,000 in a pension. So her income's $3,000, and time she makes her house payment, she's only got like $1,500 left over, and things are really tight. So the way I look at a reverse mortgage is that it would pay off that first mortgage, so she doesn't have to pay that first mortgage anymore. She still lives in the home, and she can stay there till the day she dies. She controls the home. She can sell it, right?
She can. Yeah. Whoever has a reverse mortgage, it's a common misconception, Eric, but when you have a reverse mortgage, you are not giving up ownership to the bank or the lender. You still control the home. You have full rights of ownership. You can make payments whenever you want. You can sell it whenever you want. You can refinance it whenever you want. You can improve it if whenever you want. And all of the equity in the home always belongs to the homeowner, or if they pass away and leave the home to their children or their heirs or whoever's handling their estate, that the equity would belong to them once they pay the reverse mortgage off.
And sometimes I'll tell our clients, if they get a reverse mortgage and if they want to add one of their kids' name to the title, they can do that. I think technically the reverse mortgage probably says they can't, but there's a law that says they can. So sometimes they might add someone's name to the title. They're not living in the home necessarily, but so that when they pass away, the property would automatically go to the child. And the child then has, my understanding, about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, to either pay off the home or to sell it, right?
That's correct. We close loans all the time where people have their children on title. That's not a problem. It's actually a smarter thing to do. That way the kids won't have to go through probate. But yes, we can do a reverse mortgage with kids on title. We can also do a reverse mortgage if the home is held in a trust.
Okay. Anyone on YouTube, if you got on a chat, if you got a question, you can ask. That's okay. But let's go on. Sometimes, Ken, people will tell me, they'll say, I don't want. I'll say, first off, I don't let our paralegals normally talk to people about reverse mortgages because there's a lot of misconceptions. I want them to talk to one of the attorneys, but I want our paralegals to point someone that they think would benefit from a reverse mortgage to one of our attorneys so that we can explain that to them. Because sometimes we'll talk to a senior about, and I'll mention, have you considered a reverse mortgage? And they'll say, I've lost my train of thought. All of a sudden, I was reading some notes here. What did I say? I can't remember. I was gonna say, I'll get in gear here. So anyway, they tell me I don't want a reverse mortgage. That's right. And I'll ask them why. They can't give me a reason except they heard something bad. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's like, sometimes it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay. Or they'll say something like, well, I want to leave something for my kids. And if I get a reverse mortgage, I can't do that. And then what I've told seniors before is that, okay, that's fine. But statistically, almost half of all seniors end up on Medicaid. And if they end up on Medicaid, if they've got a piece of property, it needs to be sold to pay for the medical bills before Medicaid kicks in, if they leave the home. Or if they die with the home, when the home gets sold, it's going to have to reimburse the government for the expenses for Medicaid, like staying in a nursing home. So sometimes seniors, thinking they're going to leave something for their kids, they don't get a reverse mortgage, and they eat macaroni and cheese for 15 years, living in the home, preserving the equity, so that when eventually they go into Medicaid and boom, all of a sudden, all that equity in that property is going to go to the federal government, and it doesn't go to support them. Okay? So if they would have got a reverse mortgage, their life would have been a lot easier. And then the other thing too, Ken, I've thought to myself, the vast majority of kids want their parents to live a comfortable life in their elderly years, and they're not so focused on their own interests. Okay, but sometimes I have a problem with kids coming and the parents say, "Well, my children thinks it's a bad idea." Okay, a reverse mortgage, and my response to my clients is, they don't know anything about a reverse mortgage. Do a joint call with me, and I'll explain to them, the advantages of it. I don't know. What's your experience that way?
Eric, so you and I have been working together for almost 15 years. I've talked to thousands of helps clients, and we've helped many of them. Excuse me. The typical helps customer, their client that comes to us, is a couple that carried a mortgage into retirement. That mortgage is having an adverse effect on the quality of their life because they have a payment that's associated with it. And that payment is negatively impactful to their budget and to their lifestyle because a lot of times your clients or reverse mortgage clients are living on a fixed Social Security income and having to make a mortgage payment likely for the rest of their life is a burden. And that's why reverse mortgages came out back in 1989. They've been around for a long time. They are insured by the federal government. They're safe. But they come and they say, is there any way that we can get rid of this mortgage payment? Now, one thing a lot of people don't know about reverse mortgages is when you talk to a mortgage company or a bank that does reverse mortgages, none of us create how much money somebody can get, or we don't decide how much money somebody can get. That is all done by an FHA calculation. As long as we're all using the same data, the value of the home, the age of the borrowers, all we have to do is go into this calculator, put in some basic information, and FHA lets us know how much money would be available to them. Now, the question is, what can we do with that money? Let's say the FHA math says that a potential reverse mortgage customer can get a line of credit for $200,000. The question is, what do we do with that $200,000? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to pay off any liens that are on the property, likely a mortgage. If there's any back taxes or judgments or anything like that, those will all get taken care of through the reverse mortgage. And we'll just use an example. Let's say that those debts are about $100,000. So if we have a $200,000 benefit, $100,000 of that's going to go to eliminate any liens that are on the title. Right there, that creates more cash flow for the customer because they no longer are making a mortgage payment.
Yeah, that's the first question. Jimmy says, can a person get a reverse mortgage if they still owe a little on the original mortgage? And the answer is absolutely yes. And that's
Absolutely.
probably the number one reason that I suggest a reverse mortgage. Hey, you can get rid of this original mortgage that's you're having to pay, a half of your income's going to original mortgage. You get rid of that so you can have that money to live on, right?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yes, by far the most common use of reverse mortgages is paying off loans that people have had, that people currently have, or they carried into retirement. So it eliminates that payment. And right there accomplishes a lot. It creates cash flow. Instead of a customer sending a check to the bank for $500 a month for their mortgage, they get to keep that now.
So I got another question here. So are reverse mortgages only offered to homeowners that are still paying on the home, or can they get one when the home is paid off also?
So, let's just go back 30 seconds to the customer that we had that we were just making up a scenario. They get a $200,000 line of credit. 100,000 of it has to go to pay off a mortgage. And then that leaves over for the customer an available line of credit for $100,000.
And if they owe nothing on the home, they get the 200,000.
If they owe nothing on the home, there's nothing to pay off. Now instead of them getting a $200,000 line of credit, that 100,000 goes to pay off a mortgage. Now they get a $200,000 line of credit, and they get to keep all of that.
Yeah. Judy's got a question. What is the interest rate now for reverse mortgages?
So the most popular reverse mortgage out there is the one that's FHA insured. It's called a HECM. You may have heard of that, home equity conversion mortgage. Right now, the rates on those are what typical mortgage rates are on conventional loans. It varies week to week, but right now we're right around 6.5%. And that's what typical mortgage rates are right now.
Right. So because the interest rates have gone up over the last several years, there's fewer more reverse mortgages being made, correct?
Correct.
Probably because, there's not enough equity in a property, so fewer people qualify for a reverse mortgage. But, I've always thought, if a person comes to me and they're elderly and they've got equity in their home that qualify and they don't have any children and they've got all this equity, I say to myself, it's a no-brainer why they wouldn't get a reverse mortgage, because man, they don't really have anyone the house is going to go to, that but they owe this money. If they got a reverse mortgage, pay off the existing mortgage, and their twilight years would be a lot easier for them. So that's my pitch to seniors, especially those that don't have any kids. Okay, if you're worried about your kids, that's fine. I can answer that question. But if you don't have any kids, then Boom. Reverse mortgage just makes a lot of sense. So there's another question. Can you get a reverse mortgage with high credit card debt? Let's answer that question.
So we do reverse mortgages all the time for people that have mortgages, that have credit card debt, that have property tax delinquencies. It can impact depending on how much debt somebody has or how much somebody owes on the home. It can impact if they can qualify for the reverse mortgage. Meaning, if the reverse mortgage gives somebody qualifies for $100,000 reverse mortgage, but they owe $150,000 on the home, well, then that's somebody that we can't help with the reverse mortgage because there's not enough money to pay off what they owe on the home. People that have a lot of credit card debt, the line of credit can be put in place to help when we close the loan. Those people that get the line of credit can use that line of credit to pay off credit card debt. Now, there is some underwriting calculation that underwriters use to look at how much income you have and how much debt you have. And an underwriter can say, this person has too much debt, and between the debt that they have and the property taxes and their homeowner's insurance and maybe the limited income they have, they don't make enough money to be able to support their debt and their property charges.
Yeah. So let me interject here.
Mhm.
So I just want to be clear to our clients and seniors listening. If you get a reverse mortgage, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to use that money to pay any debt that you owe, except for a mortgage that's a lien on the property. Correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And for a lot of our seniors, their income is sufficient that according to your analysis, they could be responsible for paying the debt themselves, and it wouldn't need to be paid from the reverse mortgage. But if they're a member of HELPS, they could choose not to pay that debt after they get the reverse mortgage, and they give it to HELPS, and we protect them from the creditors harassing them. That's kind of what we do, and that's what we do, right?
Eric,
Yeah.
that's when it works the best is
Yeah.
when we collaborate between the reverse mortgage and helps. And hopefully we can get in front of somebody before their credit has gone bad.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Okay.
it makes.
So let me interject in. So sometimes when clients call, I'll tell them, you may need to call Ken, and he can run a credit report. How fast, Ken?
I can do a credit report in a couple minutes.
And you've told me before is that they usually only do one credit report, and if you got one before you've been in default, that could help slick the grease, for get easier to get a reverse mortgage.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the goal.
So
let's get the reverse mortgage in place prior to your credit starting to deteriorate.
Yeah. So when we talk to if a senior's listening to us and they think about getting a reverse mortgage, and they've got these debt problems, they're current on everything, but finally it's just like, I don't know what to do anymore, and they say, hey, this reverse mortgage might make sense. It makes sense to get a reverse mortgage sooner than later if that's what you're going to do. If you do it later and your credit is bad, then what's an implication as far as property taxes, Ken? I know the answer. Tell us.
So we do an underwrite on credit. If your credit's good, you can pay your taxes and insurance yourself. If your credit is not good, then we're required to hold back some money from the proceeds that you would normally get from a reverse mortgage. And that money that we hold back, we use to pay your property taxes and homeowners insurance for you. That way it guarantees the underwriter, it guarantees FHA that for a period of time, the homeowner is not going to go into default on their property taxes or homeowners insurance. So in that situation, they now have a reverse mortgage. It doesn't require a mortgage payment. And they also don't have to pay their property taxes, and they also don't have to pay their homeowners insurance for a period of time. Now, effectively, that person is living in a home for a while without any property charges.
And that may be good for some people, but for some seniors, they would like to have more money up front, maybe to fix the home and do other things and have that available to them. And they can afford to pay the property taxes themselves. Which brings us to another point. Because of reverse mortgage got a bad rap years ago. And I think the reason was, um, you tell me, what was the reason why reverse mortgage has got a bad rap? You tell me.
Eric, there's two big misconceptions out there that I try to educate people about every day. One is some people still believe that they don't own their home anymore, that the bank owns their home. That's not true.
Yeah, we've
A
cleared
reverse
that up.
mortgage, you're still on title, you're on the mortgage, you're on the note, you have full rights of ownership, and you own all of the equity in the home. The second biggest misconception is there's this idea out there that some people have that the bank wants the home, or the bank is trying to uh, get the home from the homeowner, and that's not true either. There's stories out there that people have been told where I lost my home because I had a reverse mortgage. And what I tell people most of the time is if that's happened, it's typically because the homeowner uh, became delinquent on their property taxes. Now, that's not a reverse mortgage issue. That's an anybody mortgage issue. If I don't pay my property taxes, I'm going to lose my home as well. And if you don't have a mortgage on your home at all and you don't pay your property taxes, you're eventually going to lose your home. So paying property taxes is something that everybody has to do. That's a
Right,
homeowner.
right.
But there are some stories
So
out there where people have been told they lost their home because of a reverse mortgage.
yeah, and the
Most of
reason
the
is
time, they didn't pay their taxes.
years ago, the requirements weren't as stringent as they are now, and people weren't required to. They were making reverse mortgages for people that obviously couldn't afford to pay the property taxes ongoing. So those people uh, eventually got their homes foreclosed because they didn't pay their property taxes, and so the government tightened up the restrictions on reverse mortgages to make it less likely that someone would get foreclosed for not paying property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. And
Yep.
I've been doing this long enough to have seen that actually happen. So anyway, we got some more questions here. Um, is a Richard asks, is a mobile or manufactured home permanently owned in a fee simple on dirt in Florida okay for a reverse mortgage?
It is. It has to be the manufactured home has to be built after or put on the property after a certain date. I believe it's 1976 or 1978. I can go back and look, but as long as it was put on there prior to or after that date, as long as it's permanently affixed to the land, and as long as the owner of the home owns the land, then yes, we can do that. It
Right.
does. It
Yeah,
is
it's
qualified
got
for
to
a
be
reverse
on dirt.
mortgage.
Okay, here's the Miss H asks, can you get one with a home equity line of credit, a HELOC on the home also?
You can that, and the reverse mortgage would have to pay off that HELOC.
Yeah, it would pay off any first or second mortgages or a
Mm-hmm.
first mortgage and a home equity line of credit.
Yep.
Um, can you do a reverse mortgage on a manufactured home if you don't own the land?
Cannot. Nope.
You gotta have the land. So
Eric,
okay, Richard says this. Um, so if the cards are charged off, maybe it helps client. A senior comes to us, their credit is crap. Okay, the cards are charged off and the credit is in the tank. We cannot qualify for the reverse mortgage.
you can. It
Yes.
makes it a little bit more difficult because the math changes on how much somebody will get. So when an underwriter underwrites your credit, they're mainly looking at the last 2 years of your credit history. If you've got old charge off, old delinquencies, things like that, underwriters aren't paying too much attention to that. They want to know what does your credit look like in the past 24 months. It's not credit score driven, so it doesn't matter if your credit score is 600 or 800 or 500. They're looking at the actual history. And if your last 24 months of payment history is good, then it's likely you're going to be categorized as someone who has good credit. And if your credit history in the past 24 months isn't good, then you go into a different category of not having good credit. We can still do the loan. The math just makes it a little bit trickier to get the
So
loan done.
so his question, he said, okay. So let me amplify that question a little bit. Richard had okay. He's got poor credit, but he's always made his mortgage payment on time, and he's always paid his property taxes on time.
Mm-hmm.
So
So certainly helpful. And the biggest weight of an underwrite looks at property charges. So if your mortgage is on time, taxes and insurance are on time, that goes a long way. A few lates here and there on consumer debt, that's going to be okay. It's if in the past year or two you've had significant collection accounts, charge-offs, you just walked away from a lot of debt, that's when it makes it more difficult. Not saying we can't do it,
but let me be clear. Let me be clear. Let's say you do have toilet, history. It's in the toilet. Your credit. You can still get a reverse mortgage. They're just gonna do a set aside for property taxes and insurance. Correct? That's it.
That's if there is enough money available to.
Well, assuming there's enough money. Say a guy's got a home, let's say 400,000, that's free and clear. Okay, and he doesn't owe any money at all. But he's got crappy credit, and he's got $10,000 a year well, that'd be too high. Let's say 5,000 a year in property taxes. Then they have to do a reserve. I understand it for how many years of property taxes and insurance? Let's say 5,000 for property taxes and insurance. How much do they have for a reserve?
It depends on how old they are. Basically, FHA calculates everybody's life expectancy to be right around 83. So if somebody comes to us that's 75, we're going to have, and they don't have good credit, we would have to hold back about maybe 8 or 9 years of taxes and insurance from their proceeds. But that's not a bad thing. Giving somebody the relief of not having to pay a mortgage, their taxes or insurance is positively impactful.
No, it isn't a bad thing, and because they're not going to have to make the payment. Someone else is going to make the payment for them. Yep. They have more money available to them each month. They have to make the payment no matter what. That way it just, okay.
And Eric, some people voluntarily elect to do the set.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Set aside meaning, my credit's good, and you qualified me for a line of credit for 150,000. I don't need that much. So can you hold back some of that to pay my taxes and insurance for me for the next 10 years so I don't have to budget for that throughout the year or get a surprise bill, for my summer and winter taxes for thousands of dollars.
Here's another question I got. I want to clarify this too. So let's say you get a reverse mortgage and you qualify to get $100,000. I mean, can you arrange the reverse mortgage so that you get that $100,000 with an extra, $600 a month, that it comes in a monthly amount, and you don't have to get it in a lump sum? Can you do that?
You can. So you have a choice. If the math says that you can get a $100,000 line of credit, then we give you some options. Do you want to manage that line of credit yourself? Meaning, do you just want to take draws from it for any amount whenever you want? Most people elect to do that. Some people say, I don't want to have to worry about managing a line of credit. Can you just send me $500 a month or $1,000 a month or any amount from that line of credit? And yes, we will then send whatever amount they elect from that line of credit. And then once they've exhausted the line of credit, then those monthly payments would stop. Of course, the less of the monthly payment they take, the longer those payments will last.
Right. So here's another question. Does the credit score affect the amount or the amount you can get if the home is worth $200,000? What can a person get? Part or most of that amount? My understanding is the credit score really doesn't affect the amount you get. It only it would affect whether you're required to have a set off for property taxes and insurance. Am I right?
You are correct. So, and there's no, everyone's not painted with the same broad stroke of how much money or how much of a percentage of the value of the home do they get. It depends on how old you are, because a lot of reverse mortgages are set up based on life expectancy. So somebody who's 92 is going to get a lot more money than somebody who's 62 because the life expectancy is
And what's different. The youngest you can be to get a reverse mortgage?
On the FHA reverse mortgage, you have to be 62. We do have other reverse mortgages that go down to 55.
So let's say you're 70 and your spouse is 59, and you want your spouse to be part of that reverse mortgage. Can that happen?
It can, yes. As long as one of the borrowers are over 62.
Okay. And then Hector asks, what if you owe federal student loans?
That makes it a little bit tricky. Because this is insured by FHA, which is the federal government, If you're in default on federal loans, we can still there's a way that we can still get through this. You might have to set up a payment plan. You might have to make a couple payments on that plan before we can apply the reverse mortgage. But if you have student loans and the payments are made on time and there's no federal default on any loans, then it's not even considered as part of the underwriting. It's just considered
Yeah.
another debt. But no, it won't impact it if the payments are made on time.
Practically speaking, there's been no, student loans for seniors have been kind of like put on stay since about 2018. So I'm not sure that's would be a factor. And the government just announced that they're not going to go after people's student loans, set off for student loans for seniors. So I know, I guess it's a case by case
Case
scenario.
by case.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we need to cover here?
Eric, really quick, can I just let everybody know what a typical conversation looks like if you were to give me a call?
Do it.
So anybody who calls me, you're going to speak with me directly. I promise a return call within 24 hours if you leave me a voicemail. You're also welcome to text me too. We're going to give you my number before we go. But when you call me, the conversation we have, it really can last 5 or 10 minutes. There's just some basic information that I need to run reverse mortgage numbers for you. What I need is an approximate value of your home, which we can look online to decide what we think is a good value, the date of birth of the homeowner. Those two pieces of data, I can run numbers to let you know how much you would qualify for on a reverse mortgage. We don't pull your credit on this conversation. I'm not asking for payment information, credit card information, nothing like that. We're not asking for social security cards. I'm taking your word on it because I will ask you, do you think you have good credit or do you think you have not good credit? Based on your response, then we'll run the numbers based on that, on the way that you responded. But typically, the first conversation can last anywhere between 10 minutes if you just want me to run numbers for you, or maybe we can talk for an hour and go deep into here's how much money you can get. Here's where some of it's going to go. And based on your credit, here's what a set aside would look like. And when you hang up the phone, you're going to have a very good idea of what a reverse mortgage will look like for you, what it will accomplish for you, and whether or not it will have a positive impact on the quality of your life. That's really what people use to determine whether or not they're going to get a reverse mortgage, which is this going to improve the quality of my life? Will paying off a mortgage and eliminating that mortgage payment and maybe getting a line of credit for X amount of dollars, will that enhance the quality of my life? If the answer is yes, then most people will move forward with it. If the answer is no, then at least you know that a reverse mortgage is something that you're not interested in considering, or it's not going to be too beneficial for you. But we can give you, or I can give you that information within a 15-minute phone call. There's no obligations. We don't take any consulting fees or anything like that. And Eric, any customers that come to me through your organization, we don't have any out-of-pocket expense for them throughout the mortgage process.
Yeah, that's important because you have to do an appraisal. So you're not going to ask those people up front for the appraisal fee. You do that. You're going to do that.
We cover the cost of the appraisal. If the loan ends up closing, then we do get reimbursed through the closing costs. Closing costs are financed into the loan, so still no out-of-pocket expense. If the loan doesn't close, for the helps clients, we will cover the cost of that appraisal. We will not come back to you for reimbursement on that.
You can anyway. So anyway, because their money's exempt, and then people listen to me, they know that. So here's the question. I just want if you got a townhouse, you can get a reverse mortgage. If you got a condo, maybe only 10% of condos qualify. True?
Correct. Townhouses are fine. Condos, for the most part, have to be FHA approved. FHA will not lend money, either reverse mortgage money or traditional FHA money on a condo if it's not FHA approved. We do have resources to get a condo FHA approved. It does take a little bit of time, but we can do it. But it makes it a lot easier if the condo is approved or if it's just a single family home or a townhome.
Okay. So, Ken, why don't you blast out your phone number here.
The best way to get a hold of me is my direct phone. It is my cell phone, my work cell phone. I carry it with me. If I see a call come in, I will answer it if I'm not on the phone. My direct number is 248 635 4866. I'll repeat that one more time: 248 635 4866. And we can do reverse mortgages in every state except for Hawaii.
So it takes about, what, 30 days, 30, 45 days?
Yeah, 30 to 45 days is typical. Sometimes it gets done quicker than that, and sometimes just unexpected things pop up and it can take longer. But I would say that 80% of our customers were done within 30 to 45 days. And what's interesting is, Eric, you and I will talk to people who have been struggling with debt and collectors and robbing Peter to pay Paul for years. And then they realize that a reverse mortgage is a good option for them, and we can solve a lot of their problems in 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I always tell people, if you got a question about reverse mortgage, you can go and call. You call and talk to me, and I'll talk to you about it. I can give people my opinion. And if any senior needs your number and they don't forget it or they can't, they can always call us. We'll send in an email and give them the contact information. One thing I also want to point out to seniors is that, and I think you ought to know, getting a reverse mortgage is not like going to getting a used car, okay? Or if you go to get a reverse mortgage, it's like getting a washing machine. You get the same one wherever you go. You're going to pay the same price, okay, wherever you go. If I go to you or someone else, we're going to pay essentially the same thing, correct?
Reverse mortgages are regulated, the rates are and fees are regulated, so we're all pretty close.
Yeah, so what you're paying for is whoever's helping you get the reverse mortgage. And so, nice thing about you, Ken, is that I've had a lot of clients that have had pretty difficult reverse mortgage cases,
No, no
and
doubt.
you're able to pull the rabbit out of the hat and get them a reverse mortgage, or you'll take a case that may be just a little teeny house that isn't worth a whole lot, but this little lady's getting $1,000 a month in income, and she wants to stay in her home, and so you're able to keep her in her home, and so she can preserve whatever money she has and stay in that home. One more question. Some people freak out about their home isn't up to par. My impression of reverse mortgage is that people may be worrying more about the condition of their home than they need to. It doesn't have to be in perfect shape. And if there is a problem, a reverse mortgage can pay to fix that problem, right?
Yes, an appraisal is going to be done, and if the appraiser notices any issues that would make the property ineligible, then we'll have to address those issues. A lot of times they can be addressed after the closing, so that way we can get access to the reverse mortgage money to pay those repairs. But I always tell everybody, reverse mortgage can do a lot for you. It can improve your home. It can help you with deferred maintenance. It does not have to be the most perfect house on the block. We've done a lot of difficult cases. And Eric, I love doing reverse mortgages. I've been doing them for about 17 years. I'm passionate about the loan. I'm passionate about the people that it serves. And I love what your organization does because I see it being positively impactful to clients that call me all of the time. So yes, I will guide you. I will educate you on how they work. If you can't qualify for one now, I will educate you on how a little bit of time can make things better and maybe qualify you in the future. But I can promise everybody that a conversation with me will educate you on reverse mortgages and whether or not this is something you'd like to pursue.
And never any pressure.
Never any pressure.
I know, I agree with that. I've never had a client ever tell me they had any pressure from them. So
Yep.
anyway, that's great. Well, thanks, Ken. Hope to have you here on again. Keep up the good work. And everyone
Eric, I
say,
really appreciate it.
you bet. Okay,
All
thanks.
right.
You can sign
Thank
off
you.
and I'll continue talking here.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks. I've been given explicit instructions by our tech guy at Helps that this screen over here, I am not to touch it. If I touch it, everything goes kapooey. So I'm going to leave that alone. If you have any, we're going to talk about other things now. I wanted to talk to Ken for quite a while, um, just because I've been talking to people that need reverse mortgages, and we're going to talk about other things. If you've got a question on other topics, we can deal with them now. Um, um, and I've got topics that I've covered. Let's see here. Hector, do you own a cat? No, I don't know. I don't know who Hector is, or if he owns a cat or not. So this guy writes in from Washington. I left a message today. I would like to enroll, and also I am retired and on Social Security and owe debt. Well, yeah, okay. So if you're what helps does is we represent seniors and disabled persons who owe debt, so the creditors can't bother them anymore. There's a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act provides if you're represented by an attorney, then debt collectors can no longer call our senior demands anymore. When you call Helps, we're going to ask you questions about your situation. You might call us 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then when you decide to roll, we can roll you over the phone immediately. You give us your creditors. We're going to send a cease and desist letter out. They're going to leave you alone. They're going to have to call us and not you. And our number one message to seniors is we don't want you to worry. You call us no matter how often. Okay? So this person calls us from I don't know where. Says, I'm a disabled person with lots of additional health issues. I don't own a home or have savings or stocks or pensions. I live off of Social SSI. I was making minimum. I was babysitting to make those payments. I can no longer babysit due to serious health issues, and had a bunch of surgeries. Creditors call constantly. I don't know what to say. I'm barely getting by. Full of anxiety and stressful. I feel ashamed. You know, I may have read this one before. The problem is there's no problem, but you know, a lot of the things that people write to us about Helps is a lot of people have the same problem. And if you have the problems we're talking about, do not feel like you're unique. You've got a lot of company, and Helps is here to answer your questions and help you, so you don't have to be stressed or full of anxiety, and you don't have to feel ashamed. I'm reaching out to see if you can help me. Thank you for your time. Yeah, we're going to call you and talk to you and help you so that you don't need to worry about this kind of stuff. And the nice thing about Helps is you don't fill out a form. We don't need any money up front to enroll people in Helps. We don't turn anyone away. 1 out of 7 of our clients get our help for free. Those that pay a very minimal amount. I'll just talk about the fee schedule real quick. The most a person normally would pay would be $40 for 24 months, $24 for $20 for 24 months, free thereafter, or $30 for 24 months, 15 for 24 months, free thereafter, or $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months, free thereafter. And then some people would pay just $10 a month. So it depends on your situation and your household income. We want it to work for you. Okay. So that person I just read, that was the message they sent us. We called them back on August 4th, talked to them again later in the day, and we told them what we did. We quoted the fees, they enrolled them, and it says they were discussed protections, no need to worry. So the notes, the client didn't need to worry anymore. So this person contacts us from California. Before I read that, Ms. H. Eric, you mentioned that there were different types of reverse mortgage. Did he explain the different types they offer? I missed that part. Um, yeah, it can get pretty complicated. I mean, you could get a reverse mortgage and use the proceeds to buy another home, stuff like that. there are different, or if you had a bunch of cash, you could put some cash into a home and get a reverse mortgage that way. Um, that's what he's talking about. The ones we talked about is the typical situation. Okay. And if you have a question, you can call Ken about anything. If you don't remember his number, call us. We'll send you an email with his phone number. I love Ken because when I have a question on reverse mortgage, I call him on the phone. He always picks up my call. And he's been really good to our clients over the years. We have absolutely no financial arrangement with Ken at all. He doesn't pay me anything at all. I don't want any. I don't want to be near any of his money. We just it's you know it's nice to have someone I can refer a reverse mortgage to that I trust will take care of someone, do the right job for him, give him the correct information. And I didn't say that at the end because essentially reverse mortgage, you're paying for the guy, you know, who helps you get it. And if it's just a guy that doesn't really know a whole lot, then or only wants to have a real good case, then you're not going to get as good service. With Ken, he helps anyone. That's what I like about him. Okay. I want to know when a senior works and file taxes, can they pay off the amount that's owed to helps faster than paying monthly if they can afford? I don't care. Most people don't. We're set up not to do that, but we'll make exceptions for people. Just don't want you to worry. So this person was referred to us from California. It was referred to us by a different law firm, and she is overwhelmed with debt after going through some surgeries. She lives with a couple siblings. Uh, the attorney who talked to her said that she was very chatty, and we got some bonus details. uh, so anyway, she's with Beyond Finance, which is a debt management company, and we would have told her. I said, when you signed up with debt management, did they tell you your income was protected? The answer is going to be no. They didn't tell me my income was protected. No. That's the problem we have. If you signed up with debt settlement or debt management company, and they never told you that your Social Security was protected or your pension, you weren't getting complete information. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we answered a question, and it looks like she enrolled in helps. So this person contacts us from South Carolina. They moved from New York a year ago. They get Social Security, and they have a part-time job. Credit card debt, federal student loans, living with family who helps make payments. We discussed account protections and how her car was protected. She had a savings and a checking account, but her Social Security goes to her checking account. She's going to close down the savings account. Why is that? Well, if someone sues her and gets a judgment, they could get money out of the savings account. But if you get Social Security, twice the amount of your Social Security deposited in your checking account is automatically protected from garnishment by your bank, regardless of what funds are in there or where they came from. Like some time to review the emails that we sent. And she called back, read most of our emails, wants to know the fees. We explained how our bank was protected at length, and discussed the probability of a lawsuit. It doesn't matter if you're sued one time or a million times, your income's protected. That's what's important. We talked about if you had extra money and you wanted to protect that, how you could put it on a prepaid debit card or cash or whatever. She enrolled. So I was sent a letter to go to court by the company that bought the debt, and I can't afford to pay. I'm waiting for your help. I'd like to know the cost of having help contact my creditors. Well, I just explained. So uh, when you, if you have questions and you're not a member of helps, you can always call and talk to us. We'll go over this. We ask you some basic questions. You know, where you live, how you found out about us, married or single, buying a home, renting, how much you owe on the home, what you're paying for rent, what's the home worth, you buying a car, own a car, have you been sued, you owe any taxes. See, we can help in a lot of different areas, so we ask these questions. And then we read you a little what your credit card debt or what your debt totals approximately. We don't need exact numbers. And then we read you a little script and quote the fees. Um, and then most it would be $40 for 24 months, $20 for 24 months, free thereafter. Or it could be as low as $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months, free thereafter. Um, Depends on your household income. And then if you decide to enroll, we don't need any money up front. The payment would begin in 30 or 60 days, depending on when you get your next Social Security check. So for example, someone who gets paid on the second Wednesday of the month, today is August 5th, their payment wouldn't begin until like September 15th, which would always be after the second Wednesday. So it depends on when you get paid. If you got paid on the third of the month, your payment wouldn't be till, believe it or not, October 3rd, because September 3rd is less than 30 days from now. So we go out to the next time you get paid, October 3rd. When a senior inherits a home and is only on Social Security and needs to file, uh, I don't know, file bankruptcy, will owning that home affect the way they can file, and will that have to pay, or how? I'm not sure what your question is. Uh, okay. If the question is too complicated, I'm going to have you call us on the phone. Anna asked if you have high credit card debt and have a mortgage on a home, can the credit card collectors get a lien on your home? Well, if they sue you and get a judgment, it can become a lien on the home. It becomes a lien on property owned in the county where the judgment's located normally. And a lot of times that really doesn't mean anything. They're not going to take your home. They're not going to foreclose on the home. If you own the home with a spouse, as husband and wife, the judgment is just against your husband, for example, and he passes away before you, then when he dies, the judgment goes away. There's no longer a lien. Or if you owned it with your children with rights of survivorship, joint tenants with rights of survivorship, when you die, then the property goes to your kids. If they were added to the home before the judgment, a judgment lien would disappear. And then in some states, a lien doesn't even attach. California probably, and California or Texas, you can sell a home and have a lien removed. In other states, you can as well. So it depends on the state. But as far as you losing a home, no, it's not going to happen. Okay. So this guy calls us a few days ago. I'm retired. Um, he receives I think he's in Nevada. Is that where he's at? Yeah, he's in Nevada. He receives disability retirement check. 80,000 in consumer debt. Can't keep up with it. Please get a hold of me. We called him back. Got a couple of judgments from another state that have actually been transferred to Nevada, which is highly unusual. If you get a judgment in one state, it's kind of uncommon for them to transfer it to another state. Uh, we went over how his income was protected, what our fees were, and he enrolled in helps. Didn't need to worry about that debt. This person calls us from Michigan, completed the intake. This has to be from one of our attorneys who always says, that's a very nice lady. She says, completed intake, read paragraphs, quota fees enrolled, very nice lady who has never missed a payment until now. She has auto pays and she will stop at the bank. I emailed her the email on how to stop automatic payments. She found us on YouTube but didn't know a lot about help, so I emailed her another email. We call it a general email that talks about helps, and also YouTube Live. Uh, and we talked about her interest in her home. They could soon get a judgment, but they're not going to take the home. She doesn't need to worry. So yeah, if you have questions, you call us on the phone, 855-435-7787, toll free. It's almost an hour. I can't believe it. Well, we talked with Ken for quite a while, but we got 2 more days. We got Wednesday and Thursday. We can talk and answer your questions. And you can always call us if you have a question. Don't want you to be out there wondering about this. You can call and talk to us. Alabama person calls us. Can't keep payments up on the RV, recreational vehicle, camper, trailer, an RV you drive, whatever kind it is. Back in July. Talked how they could let it go back, not have to pay it. They're being sued on another debt. They enrolled. See, when it helps clients get sued, you get us a copy of the lawsuit. We just need top 3 or 4 pages, 2 or 3 pages. We send a letter to the attorney who sued you, letting the attorney know that you can't afford to pay the debt and you're not going to go to court. And we'll call you, explain why you don't need to go to court. We'll send you emails on why you don't need to go to court, and that's it. So that's one reason help. Our help is not just one time; it is ongoing. Literally, we represent you forever, so you don't have to deal with collectors. Now, the fees normally end in 4 years because, um, after 4 years, these problems pretty much get settled out. That's the way we structured it. But you can call us 5, 10 years from now if you needed to. Can a senior file bankruptcy after they inherit a home and can't pay for the debt? Well, it depends on how much the home is worth and how much equity you have in the home and the exemption for the state where you live. So if you got a home that's worth $200,000 and the state exemption is $50,000, then if you filed a bankruptcy, the trustee would take the home. Even if someone died and you're entitled to the home, you'd lose the home. So some ways, bankruptcy, filing bankruptcy for some reason is kind of like Brer Rabbit. You can get into the briar patch. Once you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you're locked in. And if you've made a mistake, it could be really a big problem for you. Okay. Whereas if you didn't file bankruptcy and you inherited the home, you had excess equity in the home, you keep the home. No one's going to be able to take it from you. Even if they soon got a judgment, it could be a lien, but they're not going to take it. You call and talk to us, and we'll go over this. So it's been an hour. I will be with you tomorrow, and you'll have me for the whole day tomorrow. But I think I want to have more guests on. I kind of like that. So anyway, call us if you had more questions. Hope you learned something today. God bless, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.